Hello again, it's Cliff here from Down Under. In this video I'm going to be talking about the finishing of parts. And you probably know I've been making the Hallmark Impact Tolerant Touch Probe, the ITTP, for some years now, and I've had to learn quite a bit about the finishing of parts for that project, which is going really well. 4 years as of a couple of months ago. Anyway, you probably also know, if you've been watching my recent videos, that I've been developing two lathe tool setters, the lathe tool setter electronic LTSE and the lathe tool setter mechanical LTSM, and doing a pilot production run currently. So there's quite a few parts that I've had to manufacture and get into the finishing of parts. So I've made quite a few clips along the way for different videos. So this video is going to be about finishing of parts. I'm not an expert on that specific subject. I've been learning, and I'm happy to pass on what I've learned so far. Sometimes it's good to learn from other people who are learning, because they can explain it in a way that suits your language and your budget. Alright, cheers. I just wanted to talk briefly about finishing your parts. Now, I'm not an expert on this subject because I'm making mainly industrial parts that need to look reasonably good. But you know, they're not a lady's cosmetic product, and I'm not worried about getting everything absolutely perfect. But to go from a machined surface, a fairly good machined surface, to a slightly upgraded finish before anodizing is actually only a very small job. I'll just go through basically one way of doing that, and let's go over to the little plate of steel I've got here on the bench. Just a plate of mild steel. Get a piece of 400 grit paper for a fairly quick and easy coarse finish. I'll just put the camera on a tripod and just show you what I do. So we're taking it from this machined or scratched surface to a slightly nicer surface finish. So get some super glue, put a dot in 3 places, stretch a piece of 400 paper out. Now, if you want a finer finish, you might want to go to 600 paper or maybe 800 paper, but 400 is pretty quick and easy, and it hides a multitude of sins if you just want a quick tidy up of the surface. Okay, so you get a piece of mild steel plate. You can probably buy that much more easily in the United States. I've got it here in New Zealand from a die set supplier, an ejector plate, about a 5/8 thick, you know, that sort of size, and you stick it on with your instant glue, your 400 paper, or maybe a bit finer, and every now and again you need to just sort of brush off any bits of chips that are starting to build up, because they can tear on the part you're polishing. Okay, so a bit of kerosene. Now, if you want, you should really wear gloves for this. And if you don't want to wear gloves, you could also use soapy water, for example, wash and wax material for your car. But I'm just doing a few parts here, and I'm going to use kerosene. So I'm just going to rub it backwards and forwards in a nice straight line, literally just about 4 strokes. Okay, let's have a wee look at that. So there's the one that's got the machine finish on it, quite a good machine finish. And we didn't wipe that side, did we? So it's got a nice texture. Now, I could take it to a much higher level than that. It's just a matter of how expensive a part is it. Do you want it to be a high class part, or you just want to tidy it up a bit? I'm just talking about a fairly industrial part, and it just gives it a nice consistency. So I'm doing the edges here, and that's going to wipe off the high spots, get about 90% of the machine marks out of it, and it usually comes up really nice when it's anodized. And then I'll dip it in a bit of kerosene and blow out the thread for the split clamp and wrap it up in some newspaper or in a little bag, send it off for anodizing. So that kerosene residue that's left is an effective rust preventative for a period of time, just to stop it from oxidizing if you're in a damp environment. Well, why don't I just go through it quickly. So a piece of wet and dry paper is about 9 by 11 inches probably in the States, I imagine. So get a bit of steel, ideally that size. You can just use cheap super glue, you know, these packs of 10 for maybe $1 in the States. Put a little, 3 little dabs, for example, there, and there, and down this end. You don't need much. Of course, this has to play up on camera, doesn't it? And it's not coming through very well. Wonderful. Stuck my hand to it. Going pear-shaped. Alright, so we're just going to put that on there. I'm going to stick on that edge. Going to have to abort this video. It's not going well. So just hold it down one end till it tacks off, and then pull it tight down the other end like that. You can see I'm going to have to trim that just with some tired blade, because it's going to wreck the blade. There you go. Simple as that. It doesn't take much to hold it. While I've got the camera running, this is a really useful little thing. A little sanding block I make up. Cut a little bit of paper, fold around it like that. I write down the size of it. So the size of the paper is 50 by 160, like that. And then this little holding plate is bandsawed to be spring loaded. You see the little cutout marks in there? So when I tighten that up, it pulls down on it and tightens up the wet and dry paper. And that's really useful, and you can just quickly change it over. One cap screw in the middle. Not sure if that's necessary, probably a good idea. And it's a nice tight little sanding block. The block is 50 by 86, and if you mark on it the grade of paper you're using, you don't have to worry about remembering it. So I find 400's a good medium grade. Use 800 if you want to do fine work, or 240 or 320 if you want to do coarse work. You cut up a set of these, and they're really quick to change with these spring-loaded clamp plates in the top. A basic home handyman vibratory tumbler is quite a useful tool for certain types of work. It's quite hard to get these at a low price in New Zealand. Eventually I found, if you look online, with a website for ammunitions reloading supplies, these are sold, I think, to polish the spent cartridges. So probably in the States there's a much bigger range of these available. But if you look, if all else fails, look under ammunition reloading supplies or some sort of gun shop chain website, and you'll be able to pick these up for under $100 US. They're probably only about $60 US. You need to get some abrasive media, which again was difficult to get in New Zealand. You can actually use bags of decorative quartz from your local garden centre of a similar size. Let's have a look here. This sort of stuff, it actually works about the same as the abrasive media, but I think the abrasive media will last longer because it's got the abrasive right through it, and this probably will eventually become rounded and softened and not work as well, but initially anyway it seems to work really well, and it's a very low cost way of getting started. Here we are, here's the brand. I think they're just made in China and they're really quite cheap. So it's called a case tumbler, vibratory brass cleaner. And yeah, I'm not an expert on this subject of finishing parts, but I thought I'd put my early discoveries all together for you. If you're in a similar place, it might be helpful information. If you're wondering whether this will work for your parts, well, they work for parts of certain geometry that have simple external surfaces. If you want to polish the inside of a deep cavity, then unless the media can get inside that cavity and move around freely, it won't polish it very effectively at all. And I found that out the hard way, that it only really works well on external simple surfaces, so the media can get at it. And some shapes stick the parts together and some shapes don't. So don't expect that it's going to work for every shaped part, but for certain types of parts it's a really great little device. I want to get a sandblaster. There's quite a bit to a glass or sandblaster, a garnet blaster. You need a big compressor and you've got to get the right unit, and sooner or later I'll get one. I'll make a video when I do get one and learn a bit about it. In the meantime, let me know your thoughts in the comments if you have any advice. I want to get a quiet compressor, and but on the other hand, typical small businessman, I don't want to spend thousands of dollars either. So I'm wondering if it's possible to get a sandblasting setup that can do commercial work without spending huge money. Alright, well, a parcel from Advanced Anodizing. They're in Tokoroa of all places, which is in the middle of the North Island. How have they come out? Oh yeah. Nice. Alright, thanks for watching it right to the end. If you find these type of videos useful, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, blah blah blah, and you'll get to see more of them. Alright, cheers.